What's up, legends? It's me, Baked Goods. I still have access to my YouTube account, still have editing software, and still have a working mic, which means we're gonna make videos. I was recently added on Reddit by Impressive Heron 377, who asked, what happens with Baked Goods? We're gonna skip the nonsense, but he just wants to know how to play Black Widow. So I said, you know what? We're going to start the Baked Goods 2025 comeback tour with a short 5-minute video about how to quickly play Black Widow for those who want some quick tips but don't want a 2-hour-long strategy guide video that'll come out in 6 months. So I don't have much time. Let's get right into it. Black Widow's card values are kind of stinky poo-poo. Her attacks don't make damage appear out of nowhere for her. They don't have value increases and don't have after combat damage, and her defenses don't make damage disappear except for some effect mitigation, which means you are going to have to rely on a game plan that revolves around schemes, pressure, and good effects. Black Widow's whole shtick is that she has some mission cards that when a specific trigger is met, you get a sweet, juicy reward and then get to acquire a new mission. You start with the Moscow Protocol in your hand, and there are 4 other missions with varying levels of pronunciation ability in your deck that you can find more easily just by completing more missions, but sometimes you get lucky and draw into it. Madripoor and Firenze. Fuck, I was supposed to look up how to pronounce that. Apparently that word is pronounced Firenze, but it's also the same thing as Florence. So we're just going to say the Florence agenda. Both Madripoor and Florence have to deal with doing damage, which can be abused, especially if your opponent has lots of sidekicks, whether it be 2 health or 1 health. Madripoor is really good at clearing out everything your opponent has, whereas Firenze agenda is really is really good at punishing people who come into close contact with you. Moscow, Kinshasa, and Budapest all have a kind of more abstract purpose, and that is pressure and /or tempo. Moscow helps get the ball rolling early with a quick mission tutor and another card in an action after maybe on your 2nd or 3rd turn, dealing some damage to an opposing fighter. Really good if you are going 2nd. A little awkward if it's going 1st. I made a whole video about having the extra card in your hand and how that can be a little wonky, and some situations where you can actually trigger that on the 1st turn. Maybe I'll put it in the top right corner. Maybe I'll forget. Who knows? But Kinshasa is really good at controlling your opponent's hand early in the game, especially if you can just spam it with Director, because making your opponent discard 2 cards over and over again is going to be really annoying, and that will set up a great tempo power play with the Budapest Gambit later in the game. Honestly, one of the best cards in the game. I'm going to read this one card just because it's super important, but I'm mostly assuming that you know what all these cards do. Pause the video if you want to get a better look at it, but it says, mission, you have 2 or fewer other cards in your hand. This can be the 3rd card in your hand, because when you play it, you'll have 2 cards in your hand. Reward, draw 5 cards. Each opponent discards 1 random card. Acquire new mission. This is an insane pressure card, especially if you and your opponent have been going at it for a while. If you're both at 2 or 3 cards and you play this, suddenly you have a full hand reset. They discarded a card and are immediately on the back foot. One other key thing is to keep your sidekick Maria Hill alive, because she lets you recycle and then replay your amazing missions, which are all basically just busted schemes, and allows you to control the board. You can corral your opponent, as Zero Skater 12 would like to say. You can set up pins, kind of force your opponent into sections of the board where it makes it a lot easier for you to pressure them, especially after you get a sweet turnaround power play with Budapest. These 4 cards are the only block cards that she has access to in her deck. A little slim pickings, and you don't really want to use Director early unless you can get value out of it in the long run. So really protect her early in the game if you don't draw a ton of blocks. Let's take a look at the most ideal kind of mid-game line I can think of that will help you put a swift end to your opponent. Ideally, you play Kinshasa maybe once or twice earlier in the game just to reduce your opponent's hand size down. When you're trading blows, Widow's Kiss is a really good setup to Budapest Gambit, especially if Widow's Kiss is the 4th card in your hand and your opponent is attacking you as like their last and final action, because you can play that. Then the opponent cannot leave their space for the rest of the turn, which means on your turn, they're going to be exactly where you want them to be, which is in attack range of you. First action, you're going to play Budapest as the third card left in your hand, which means you will trigger the mission requirement by having 2 cards in your hand. You'll draw 5 cards. They will discard a random one. You'll get another mission. Your hand will be very full, and then ideally you just start attacking them. It's really good to have some sort of pin set up right about now, because that way they will be card poor and positionally effed. And your attacks like Widow's Bite and Widow's Sting are really good here because they don't have a lot of cards. They probably don't have the most ideal defense or the best value block in the world at the time. So hitting them with Widow's Sting is just going to hurt a lot. Repositioning Widow might be very helpful in that scenario. And Widow's Bite to further control their hand. These are basically the most heavy-hitting attacks you have in your deck, which is why I think you need to win the game with pressure and not necessarily card values, because you're not really going to win a lot of games just on the backs of 4 value cards and a 5. Also, this card is really good. So thanks for watching this video. Hopefully this gave you a quick little rundown on how to play Black Widow in an amount of time that your short attention span and my dislike of editing could handle. You can read the thing on the thing if you want to get a little bit more in depth at my fancy thoughts. And if you have any more additional Black Widow tips for Impressive Heron 377, please comment them below. Heron, thank you for the @ It was the boost of inspiration I needed to get back on the horse, back on the trolley, careening down the track at 1 and or 5 innocent people. It's all up to you where I go next. If anyone else wants a video like this, please respectfully @ me anywhere that I'll see it on YouTube, Instagram, Reddit. Yeah, that's all I got for you today. See you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and yay!